In Port Charles, nothing ever stays still for long, allegiances pivot in a heartbeat, private vows collide with public consequences, and the names on case files are never the whole story. This week's chapter opens on a sharp edge, a young woman weighing the cost of trust against the price of freedom, a cowboy turned employee navigating charm and power, a returning witness discovering that past choices cast longer shadows than anyone expects, and a mother who refuses to let her mistake be the last word between herself and her son. The pieces are separate, but the mood is the same, decisions taken under bright lights and thin air, where missteps echo. At the center stands Willow, still learning how to breathe inside the machinery of the law. She arrives to meet Alexis not as a supplicant but as someone determined to understand the fine print of salvation. Alexis has promised help, and she keeps her word by showing up with the composure of a veteran advocate, the kind of steadiness that has carried other clients through worse storms. Yet steadiness is not the same as certainty. Willow's hesitation is not ingratitude, it's the instinct of a person who has watched too many good deals turn into traps. The problem is not the letter of the arrangement, which could carve a narrow corridor toward daylight, but the swirl of loyalties around it. Christina's low, steady disapproval of Alexis still hums in the background, and Willow is not immune to the suggestion that an attorney's family friction might leak into a courtroom strategy. When Alexis says, with professional calm, that Willow can walk away if she wants to, she isn't challenging her client's courage, she's honoring it. The offer is not an exit but a mirror. Are you ready to let me carry this with you, even if it means showing my name beside yours in a fight that will turn personal? Willow's answer is more complicated than yes or no. She is already bruised by rumor and headline, already measured against a version of herself constructed by strangers. To accept Alexis is to accept a litigator who understands how quickly a narrative can be poisoned and how quietly it can be cured. It is also to admit that the road to acquittal may involve compromises that taste like ash. The calculus is brutal. Hold on to fear of betrayal and stand alone, or risk disappointment and gain a strategist who treats doubt as raw material. If Willow seems wary, it is because she has learned that Port Charles writes its stories in permanent ink. Alexis, for her part, answers the wariness with craft. She filters facts from noise, maps the pressure points in the state's theory, and begins drafting a defense that is less about dazzling declarations than about endurance. She knows that the hardest part won't be the filing, it will be guarding Willow from the gravitational pull of other people's wars. Across town, a different negotiation unfolds with lighter stakes and subtler power. Cody walks into a first meeting that could have been awkward, and somehow it isn't. Veronica Bard receives him not like a superior granting an audience but like a patron who recognizes the value of a particular kind of grit. Her quip about cowboys lands as more than a joke. It signals that she sees Cody's persona, understands it, and, most importantly, knows how to use it without breaking it. In a city where jobs can vanish with a text message, stability is its own form of affection. Cody doesn't need flattery, he needs a lane. Veronica gives him one, outlining expectations with a briskness that feels like respect. The subtext is simple. Do the work, keep your hat if you must, but trade swagger for reliability. It's an unflashy compact, and therefore a rare luxury. Their rapport, brief as it is, illustrates a truth this town keeps forgetting. Not every contract is a cage, and not every boss is a storm cloud. Beneath Veronica's urbane veneer is an instinct for placing the right person in the right room at the right time. Beneath Cody's roguish ease is a hunger to matter that doesn't require spectacle. Job security, for now, is the handshake between them, a promise not of permanence but of fairness. In Port Charles, that counts as optimism. If optimism has a sworn enemy, it is the past returning in the clothes of the present. Jacinda learns this the hard way the moment she steps back into Port Charles. What she remembers as a desperate night, the kind that blurs into legend when told over drinks, has hardened into a legal fulcrum. Drew has no interest in nostalgia. He isn't merely angry, he is methodical, and his method is punishment. He was ready to draw a gun once, now he draws a plan. Jacinda wasn't just a companion in a spiral, she was a witness who lubricated the alibi machine, and that makes her dangerous twice over. Dangerous if she talks and dangerous if she doesn't. The invitation she receives is simple and savage: cooperate on my terms, or let the justice system learn your name the loud way. None of this can be understood without Michael, whose proximity to the shooting has turned him into a magnet for blame. Whether he is guilty is almost beside the point. The city has decided that someone must absorb the narrative's need for a villain, and Drew seems committed to making sure Michael is that person. With Willow already caged by allegations that stretch beyond her ability to refute them alone, Drew seizes momentum. He treats Jacinda not as a person but as leverage. Apply pressure at the right angle, and the structure of defense collapses. What he underestimates is how fear metabolizes in different bodies. Jacinda thought her return would be a minor tremor. Instead, she meets a man who has turned vengeance into a ritual. The frantic calculus begins. Which truth, told to which audience, leaves the fewest scars? Port Charles thrives on parallel lines that eventually collide. While lawyers whisper and reputations fry, another story gathers tenderness and regret around a kitchen table philosophy. When you break something you love, you fix it yourself. Lois lives by that rule. She doesn't outsource apologies, and she doesn't rehearse them either. Her decision to involve Sonny is not a ploy, it is a recognition that some conversations require a referee the other side will actually hear. Giovanni has dodged her calls, and she does not blame him. Distance is sometimes the only weapon a hurt person thinks he has. Yet Lois believes that truth can shorten distances if spoken cleanly enough. The meeting, when it finally happens, is stripped of ornaments. No grand gestures. No rehearsed speeches. Lois arrives with a single proposition: let me own the betrayal without assigning it to ghosts. She does not flatten what happened into misunderstanding. She names it as treachery that wore the costume of protection and admits that costume fooled her most of all. What she asks for is not instant absolution but honest hearing. Giovanni, whose pride burns as hot as his affection, listens with the stiff posture of someone unsure whether compassion will feel like weakness. The room is crowded with the invisible, history, expectation, the echo of what might have been if someone had spoken sooner. In a town addicted to half-truths, Lois's clarity is almost shocking. Whether it moves Giovanni now or later is another matter. Healing is sluggish work, even when the medicine is pure. Thread these arcs together and the city's theme emerges: accountability pitched against survival. Willow's choice of counsel becomes an argument for trusting a flawed ally over facing a flawless abyss. Cody's employment turns into a case study in small dignities that keep people upright between catastrophes. Jacinda's return demonstrates how a single night can be weaponized long after the hangover fades, and how a man like Drew can confuse justice with control. Lois's confession reminds us that repair begins when excuse-making ends. Each story asks the same question with different accents: who do you become when the mirror is held steady? The legal terrain, meanwhile, keeps shifting. Alexis, having earned a tentative yes from Willow, begins the quiet work that never makes the evening news. She reconstructs timelines grain by grain, sterilizes rumor with affidavits, and insulates her client from the he said, she said vortex that swallows cases whole. She anticipates lines of attack that will try to collapse Willow into a caricature: overly trusting, easily led, eager to evade consequences. Alexis's answer is to widen the frame. She refuses to argue innocence as naivete. Instead, she builds a narrative about process, about the state's burden, about evidentiary thresholds, about the forensic boredom that truth requires. In this rendering, Willow is not an ingenue, she is a citizen insisting that the rules apply to everyone, even to prosecutors in a hurry. Drew, for his part, tightens his circle. He treats every conversation as a deposition and every hesitation as an opening. People mistake his intensity for righteousness; in reality, it is choreography. He has decided that the story will end in a confession, and if he can't get one from Michael, he will extract adjacent admissions until the collage looks convincing. Jacinda senses the trap and vacillates between fight and flight. Her best defense is also her worst fear. Telling the whole truth would clear some names and stain others, and she has long ago learned that in Port Charles, stains spread. Yet the longer she waits, the more Drew controls the lighting. The menace here isn't violence, it is narrative capture. Cody's subplot, deceptively serene, supplies a counterpoint. He leans into the unglamorous rhythm of proving himself in small ways, meeting deadlines, anticipating needs, converting skepticism into trust by the quiet math of consistency. Veronica understands that competence is comforting in a city wired for drama. She sees in Cody the rare employee who doesn't crave flames, and she protects that flameproof quality by not making a spectacle of it. For viewers hungry for respite, their scenes read like a palate cleanser: two adults acting like adults, letting reliability pass for romance. As for Lois and Giovanni, their next steps will likely be measured in inches, not miles. A clean confession can detoxify memory, but it cannot rewrite it. Giovanni may accept the apology and keep his guard up; he may reject it and regret the rejection later. Either way, Lois has done the hardest part. She has stopped telling herself a prettier version of events. In Port Charles, where everyone is the hero of their own flashback, that is a radical act. By week's end, nothing is definitively resolved and yet everything has shifted. Willow has chosen an advocate who will fight the case rather than the gossip. That choice alone changes the weather around her. Cody has earned the kind of employer who values quiet steadiness, and that security gives him a foundation from which other parts of his life can grow. Jacinda has discovered that returning home is not neutral, it is a statement that draws fire, and she must now decide whether to stand in the line of it or step aside. Drew has revealed a dangerous truth about himself, that he would rather sculpt reality than confront it. Lois has made her confession and placed the dignity of clarity where shame once sat. And Giovanni, faced with an honest mother and the ache of injury, has been offered a way forward that is not victory but evolution. Port Charles thrives on cliff edges, but this week does something braver than pushing people off them. It invites its characters to step back, to look down, and to decide not whether they will fall but what they will carry if they jump. Willow chooses law over rumor. Cody chooses labor over legend. Jacinda must choose truth over terror. Lois chooses accountability over alibi. If there is a single message threaded through these hours, it is that rescue and ruin often wear the same clothes at first glance. Only time, and a handful of fierce, unglamorous choices, will tell them apart.